It's okay, man. It's okay. We're gonna get it over. We're gonna get it over.
Finesse2Tymes got arrested. He tried to plead his case, but they still took him in. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. The courtroom was supposed to be a place where the legal situation surrounding Finesse2Tymes and Suga could move toward a resolution, but according to reports circulating today, the situation took another dramatic turn when Memphis rapper Finesse2Tymes was reportedly arrested at court while Suga was reportedly granted probation. The development immediately created questions about what happened inside the courthouse, why Finesse2Tymes was taken into custody, and why the outcome appeared to be dramatically different for Suga. At this point, the exact circumstances surrounding the reported arrest and the precise terms of Suga's reported probation have not been independently confirmed through reliable court records available to me, meaning the details should be treated as developing information rather than a finalized account. Still, the reported sequence of events paints a remarkable picture. Two people connected to the same broader legal situation could walk into court expecting answers, only for one person to leave under the conditions of probation, while the other allegedly finds himself facing another period of detention. For fans who have followed Finesse2Tymes throughout his career, the news is especially significant because his relationship with the criminal justice system has been a recurring part of his public story. The rapper has previously served time and has spoken publicly about turning his life around, building a music career, and trying to remain focused on his family and future. That history means any new arrest can carry consequences beyond the immediate case, because another arrest can potentially affect pending legal matters, release conditions, probation requirements, or other obligations depending on the jurisdiction and circumstances. What happened inside the courthouse, therefore, matters enormously. The biggest question surrounding today's reported development is simple. Why was Finesse2Tymes allegedly arrested? A court appearance does not automatically mean someone will be taken into custody. People appear in court for hearings, plea negotiations, sentencing, probation matters, motions, and numerous other proceedings. If an arrest actually occurred, there would normally be a legal basis for it, such as an outstanding warrant, an alleged violation of a court order, a new charge, a failure to comply with the condition of release, or another issue identified by authorities. Without the actual court paperwork or an official statement explaining the arrest, it would be irresponsible to claim exactly why it happened. Social media can move much faster than the legal system, and initial reports can sometimes leave out critical details. A video showing somebody being handcuffed, for example, may reveal that an arrest occurred, but not necessarily explain the legal reason behind it. That distinction is important because being arrested is not the same thing as being convicted of a new offense. An arrest represents an allegation or legal action. It does not establish guilt. Finesse2Tymes, like anyone else accused of wrongdoing, would remain entitled to the presumption of innocence unless and until a court determines otherwise. Meanwhile, the reported probation outcome for Suga creates another major storyline. Probation can be a significant result because it can allow someone to remain in the community rather than serving a period of incarceration. But it is not necessarily the same thing as walking away without consequences. Depending on the court's order, probation can come with strict requirements. Those conditions can include regular meetings with a probation officer, drug testing, restrictions on travel, employment requirements, community service, payment of fines or restitution, counseling, or restrictions on contact with certain people. Violating probation can potentially lead to additional court action and, depending on the circumstances and jurisdiction, incarceration. Therefore, if Suga was in fact granted probation today, the next question should not simply be whether Suga avoided jail. The more important question is what conditions the judge imposed. That difference becomes even more important when comparing Suga's reported outcome with Finesse2Tymes' reported arrest. If both individuals were connected to the same case or legal circumstances, people will naturally ask why the court treated them differently. Judges do not necessarily impose identical consequences on people involved in the same incident. Courts consider individual circumstances, criminal histories, the specific charges or allegations, plea agreements, evidence, cooperation with prosecutors, prior violations, and sentencing guidelines. Two defendants can therefore receive completely different outcomes, even when their names appear in the same case. One person might receive probation, another could receive community service, and another could face incarceration. The details of the individual cases are what determine the outcome. For Finesse2Tymes, the reported arrest could also represent a major setback professionally. The rapper has built a substantial following through music, performances, collaborations, and a distinctive public personality. His career depends heavily on his ability to travel, record music, perform shows, promote releases, and remain visible to his audience. Even a short period of detention can disrupt those activities. Concerts can be affected. Recording schedules can change. Business arrangements can become more complicated. Most importantly, the emotional and financial pressure of another legal battle can affect an artist's ability to concentrate on his career. But there is another side to this story. Legal trouble has been part of Finesse2Tymes' public narrative for years, and his supporters have repeatedly watched him overcome obstacles. For those supporters, today's reported arrest may be viewed not as the end of his career, but as another difficult chapter. The rapper has previously demonstrated an ability to turn personal experiences into music, and his audience has often connected with his stories about incarceration, survival, street life, family, ambition, and redemption. If this latest legal situation is resolved without a lengthy sentence, it could eventually become another chapter in that narrative. If the situation is more serious, however, the consequences could be much greater. The reported courtroom contrast between Finesse2Tymes and Suga is also likely to fuel speculation online. Social media users may immediately begin asking whether somebody received preferential treatment, whether prosecutors negotiated different outcomes, or whether there was information presented to the judge that the public does not yet know about. Those questions are understandable, but they cannot be answered responsibly without court documents. A courtroom decision is generally based on information that may not all be available to people watching from outside the courthouse. Attorneys may present arguments, prosecutors may recommend particular outcomes, probation officers may submit reports, and judges may consider information that never becomes part of a viral social media post. This is why today's story should be followed through official records rather than social media speculation. The most important documents will be the arrest record, docket entries, court orders, charging documents, and any sentencing or probation paperwork. Those records can answer questions that videos and posts cannot. They can establish whether Finesse2Tymes was actually arrested, identify the legal basis for the detention, show whether a warrant existed, and explain the next scheduled court proceeding. Similarly, Suga's probation paperwork could reveal the length of probation and the conditions attached to it. The timing of the reported arrest is particularly striking because appearing in court is often when defendants expect their legal situation to become clearer. Instead, if reports are accurate, Finesse2Tymes allegedly went into court and ended up in custody. That naturally raises the question of whether something unexpected happened during the proceeding. Was there a warrant? Did prosecutors raise a new issue? Did the judge determine that a previous condition had been violated? Was there another case involved, or was the arrest connected to something entirely separate? Until officials or court records answer those questions, all of those possibilities remain possibilities rather than facts. Another important point is that an arrest at a courthouse does not necessarily mean someone was arrested for something that happened inside the courtroom that day. Sometimes people can have outstanding warrants that are executed when they appear before authorities. Other times, A judge can issue a warrant based on an alleged violation or failure to appear. In other situations, law enforcement may already have an arrest warrant. The location of an arrest alone does not establish its cause. For Suga, being granted probation could represent an opportunity to avoid incarceration and demonstrate compliance with the court. But probation comes with responsibility. If the judge has imposed conditions, those conditions will likely become extremely important moving forward. The best possible outcome for Suga would be to follow every requirement precisely, avoid additional legal problems, maintain communication with probation authorities, and complete the probationary period successfully. A probation sentence can provide a second chance, but that second chance comes with expectations. For Finesse2Tymes, the immediate priority will likely be determining exactly why he was arrested and what happens next. His legal team will need to address the basis for the detention, determine whether bond is available, and establish the next court date. Depending on the underlying circumstances, the rapper could potentially be released while the matter continues, or he could remain detained. None of those outcomes should be assumed without official information. The story also demonstrates how quickly a courtroom development can become a major entertainment news headline. Finesse2Tymes is not simply a defendant in the eyes of the public. He is also a recognizable recording artist with millions of people who follow his career. That means every legal development can become part of a much larger public conversation. Fans will debate what happened, critics will offer opinions, and social media accounts will circulate clips and rumors. The challenge is separating what is confirmed from what is merely being repeated. Ultimately, the reported events involving Finesse2Tymes and Suga should be viewed as a developing legal story. If Finesse2Tymes was indeed arrested at court today, the central issue is understanding the legal reason for the arrest rather than assuming guilt. If Suga was indeed granted probation, the next step is determining the exact conditions imposed by the judge. Those two developments could represent very different paths through the justice system, even if the individuals were connected to the same broader situation. For now, the courthouse remains the place where the real answers will come from. Court records, attorneys, prosecutors, and official statements will provide a much clearer picture than speculation on social media. Until those details become available, the responsible conclusion is that Finesse2Tymes is reportedly facing a new legal development, while Suga reportedly received probation. But the exact reasons, conditions, and next steps remain important unanswered questions. What happens next could determine whether this is simply another temporary obstacle in Finesse2Tymes' career or the beginning of a much more serious legal battle. Either way, today's reported courtroom drama has placed the rapper back at the center of a major conversation, and everyone will be watching closely for the official explanation of what happened behind those courthouse doors.